Welcome to the Two Chumps Football Podcast. He's Emil Calamino. I'm Chad Wilson. Happy to have you here for week 9 of the college football, week 8 of the NFL season. Blazing along here, ladies and gentlemen. It wasn't too long ago, Emil, that we were just itching for this NFL and college football season to start. And man, we're getting down to the end here for college football. We're working down
college.
to
The NFL is a marathon.
It certainly is. We're only halfway through that damn thing in week 8.
I love those commercials they're running. I think it's FanDuel or one of them saying, make sure you get action on the game because a cold night in Buffalo 3 months from now will just be something like a cold night in Buffalo.
A cold night in Buffalo. They are not lying. Coming up on the show, sign stealing. We're talking about signs. Signs? We're talking about signs. Sign stealing going on in college football. There is a blue blood football coach that is on the hot seat. His seat is hot. We didn't see this coming, or did we? Trouble in Giants land at the quarterback position. Is that possible? And other NFL topics. Of course, we got to get to our NFL picks, our college football picks. Between me and the guy right here, we're getting it done each and every week. Overall for the season, I don't know if you guys can really find someone with a better record.
No, we're still on fire. Maybe not quite as hot as we've been, but it was another winning week.
Overall, friends, if you put your trust in us from August till now, well, you might be able to make your mortgage payment because not a whole lot of people out there are able to do that. So we are doing that on the show. If it's your first time here, you haven't had a chance to do that already, go ahead and hit the subscribe button, whether you're following us on YouTube or listening to us on Spotify, Anchor, Amazon, whatever your weapon of choice is for your podcast. Go ahead and hit that subscribe button so you don't miss out on the next great elite Hall of Fame type show from the Two Chumps.
We're Hall of Famers now?
We're Hall of Famers. Give us our gold jacket. So, yes, go ahead and do that. If you're looking to follow me on social media for some reason, at Gridiron Studs Show. You can go ahead and do that. Emily, you want anyone following you? I don't mind if
no.
you
No, I don't want anybody following me. I don't want anybody following me when I leave the house tonight either.
Don't follow Emil. I won't tell you. I don't know. I don't know what that's about. Guy could be having pictures with fishnets. I don't know. So he's not going to be followed, but you can follow me at Gridiron Studs. Every now and then I'll say something worthy of either a chuckle, entertainment. What does anyone feel educated anymore on Twitter?
Nobody feels educated on social media.
Period. But I gotta tell you this. I know you're off Twitter. All right. You tried it for a little while. You had your run. You got up out of there. And friend, that was probably a really good decision. Because I've got to tell you, I go on Twitter now and I thumb through, like within 3 thumb swipes, I'm annoyed. And I'm like, what the hell are people going? Like, fans have gotten more. I thought 4 or 5 years ago they were ornery, for lack of a better word. They're getting more and more dialed up each and every year. They're getting more and more bold. I don't know, Emil. Maybe it's the gray hair on your head and mine. I would have killed in my youth to have been able to have this kind of access to one of my idols, a star baseball player, football player, athlete. I would have died to have been in a position where I could actually get some interaction with the guys. And lo and behold, I see people using that to completely clown, break down, troll. It's like, do you not realize
it changed the world, right? I mean, it's some good, some bad. I will say this. I always say this, right? There's no such things are biblical. There's no new sin, right? I mean, every sin that we have today was a sin 5,000 years ago, just maybe a different way to commit the sin. It's a sin. The sins are the same, right? So when you really look at social media, it's funny to me because we hit a certain age and now say a 35-year-old is kind of young to us, or a 30-year-old. And you watch the way they like Twitter saying this. That would be like our generation saying, I went in a bar to watch a game, and the guy at the end of the bar was saying this drunk. That's all it is. I mean, it's the same thing.
It really is. And maybe they're not drunk. Perhaps they are. Probably are.
Right.
but they're in a highly emotional state. And we have substituted yelling at our wife or hollering in the house, kicking the dog, with going straight to Twitter, tagging the athlete, and going after him right now. It just seems absolutely amazing to me. One thing I wanted to touch on before we got into these topics, and I'd mentioned this to you, watching postseason baseball as both of those championship series in both of the leagues got wrapped up. I hope people, really take note of this and find this interesting. I've noticed this about, the three major sports, because that's really what I follow: basketball, baseball, football. We fall in love with things during the regular season and we ignore things from teams during the regular season that are just all so important once we get to the postseason. So last night I'm watching Arizona upset Philadelphia, and it is an upset. And I'm watching them steal bases. I'm watching them sacrifice. I'm seeing all this small ball, the stuff that people frown upon, and all the analytics people frown upon. I see that going on. I see when we get into the postseason, and even with the Kansas City Chiefs, suddenly a running game becomes important in December and January going into February. No one cares about it during the regular season. When we're in September and October, we need the 350-yard passing game. We need the 32 or 42. We need all that stuff. We don't really care about defense in the middle of a NFL or college football season. We don't seem to care about that stuff. Score points, a 45-40 game for my team is just great. You get into the postseason, you got to stop people and you got to play football. We don't care about, all we care about are three-pointers as the NBA season has just gotten underway. That's all we care about. What are we doing outside the arc? Lo and behold, you get into the postseason, it's points in the paint, it's making free throws. And I just wonder, why are we this way? We see it happening over and over and over. Why can't we realize that a running game is important, defense is important, bunting is important, stealing is important, free throws are important, having a big man in the paint that can block shots and get easy buckets is important.
Well, I think part of it is, right, when the postseason comes around, there's a couple things that change in every sport. One, by definition, you're only playing pretty good teams or great teams, right? Because if you made the postseason, even in the NBA, 16 of the 30 teams make it. That's still the top half of the league. Baseball's 12 out of 30, football's 14 out of 32. So generally, you're playing good teams, number one. And two, no matter, I'm not saying guys aren't trying in the regular season, but there's another level in the postseason, right? So things get amplified. So take a football game, for example. When you do stupid things like you return a kickoff to the 17-yard line instead of just taking it at the 25. In a regular season game, you might be able to get away with that. In a postseason game, those 8 yards are highly contested. They mean a lot. So it's different. You can wash over stupid things like, oh yeah, you only returned it to the 17-yard line in my example, right? No big deal. Postseason game, do those things enough, compound them, you get beat. Baseball's the same thing. You and I were talking about it off air. You hit more homers in the regular season because you face more average to bad pitchers over the course of a long season. You walk more in the regular season because there's more average and bad pitchers. So all these things in the postseason aren't going to happen, and we don't pay attention. As fans, we should know this. The little things are what win. You have to have talent, but you got to do the little things right. The NBA teams that rebound, defend the rim, that's the stuff that's going to win in the postseason. Generally, there's not a lot of Currys out there that are going to shoot 50% from 3-point.
I mean, it's more a part of the game. I don't want to say that part. I mean,
no, you got to
my head would
them,
be in the sand if I said that. But it time and again, these things withstand time. This is what wins games. These very fundamental things at the core of the sport. I have this question for you because I threw it out there on Twitter, the angry space. Do the Dallas Cowboys miss Zeke? To me, Tony Pollard's not the same running back. And I think some of that is you kind of needed Zeke in there.
I think they miss him a Zeke-like runner because, while his explosiveness had gone away, he was still a very willing runner between the tackles, especially down in the goal line, short yardage situations where it doesn't require a 12 or 20-yard run, it requires a 3 or 4-yard run. He was still good at that, lowering his shoulder. He was still good in pass protection, picking up the blitz, a very willing and good blocker. Pollard to me is more of the lightning piece where his usefulness is 10 carries a game, explosive carries. The pass he caught against the Chargers, that's a Tony Pollard play. He played receiver at Memphis. That's a Tony Pollard play in that catch the ball, find a space, hit the Jets, get 50 or 60 yards. And I think they missed that. I mean, I don't, it probably won't happen because frankly, I don't think we have the GM who has the stones to make it happen. But I would love to see a Derrick Henry in Dallas. I think that would be the perfect combination to
Yeah,
those two.
wouldn't that be
Yeah.
something if that happened? You know, Pollard's still a guy getting 10 to 15 carries in a game. It's just who's getting those other ones, and are they getting from those other guys what they were getting?
Well, that's an interesting question. And since you don't read Cowboys websites like I do, I'm going to tell you that somebody did an interesting analysis on that. And what's really goofy with the Cowboys is they went from one of these teams that was almost like a perfect 50-50 team, and you'd be yelling at your TV set, give Pollard more carries as Zeke was losing his explosiveness. Okay.
Yes.
But no 50-50. Now, amazingly, Pollard takes over, and it's something like 75-25. Like Rico, I think you say his name, Dowdle
Dowdle.
or whatever, but
Dowdle.
yeah, good running back, got some pop. He's only getting 3-4 carries a game. Like you got to split this up. He's a more physical runner. You got to get to make Pollard effective. You've got to have somebody that punishes tacklers, in my
Yeah.
opinion.
And I think that's the point that I'm making. I've noticed between the Cowboys and the Minnesota Vikings, though that wasn't really apparent on Monday night as they were,
No,
doing the incredible against the 49ers. But I think they missed Dalvin Cook as well. So, they've got a guy that they thought they would be just fine with if they let Cook go. And to me, it looks like, those players are just not what what the teams thought they were going to be. Now that these other guys are gone, they were better off sharing the load. So,
well, you can certainly speak to this better than I can, but I would assume when you're playing defense, it's very similar to in this analogy, hitting in a baseball game, right? If the pitcher keeps, if I'm a good hitter, assuming I have the bat speed, the pitcher keeps throwing 95, 97 at me, and I know it's coming. Eventually, I'm going to time it up
sure,
because I know it's coming.
I'm going to plot on the fastball. SEC Scooter here. I don't care what conference you think is the best, even though we know the SEC is the godfather of all college football. That doesn't even matter. What we're talking about is when you're thinking you know exactly who's going to win a ball game, where are you going to place your wager? There's only one place where SEC Scooter places his wagers, and that's at Bovada Sportsbook online. It's the #1 sports book operating online anywhere at any time. It's been around for quite some time, and when I need my money fast, those boys at Bovada are there. Good customer service, those boys at Bovada are there. You need great lines, those guys at Bovada are there, and there's all types of ways for you to get your money into your account over there. All types of ways for you to load up that account and go heavy on those SEC football games or whatever games it is that you want to lay your money down on. So when you're getting into that college football action this weekend or the NFL or the NBA or whatever it is you want to put your coin down on, Bovada Sportsbook is the place for you. Hit that link down in the description below and get yourself into the best sports book operating online anywhere or at any time. SEC Scooter said so. See you at the window.
I mean, you get used to a pitcher's cadence in the fastball, and then he turns around and he can throw spin at you. You can't time it up. I would think you can speak to this. You get two different running backs, it probably makes it a lot more difficult on defense when they have different styles, as opposed to one guy who maybe has a certain style, he gets 25, 30 carries. I would think it makes it easier to at least figure him out, as opposed to I got one guy that's going to punish me and one guy that can run right around me.
Sure. Sure. There's more preparation if you've got two guys with two different styles. what personnel do I want to have in a game for the heavy guy being in there running over people, and then I can't have that same personnel in the game when the quick jittery guy, the rabbit back gets in there. So I've got to mess around with that, and then what kind of defenses do I want to run, et cetera, et cetera. That's fine if you don't have an elite running back. You don't have an Eric Dickerson, a Barry Sanders, and Emmett Smith, someone like that can carry the load by themselves and do multiple things like that. So yeah, I've seen it. I've seen it with Minnesota, with Madison now being the guy, and not having Dalvin Cook. Though the addition of Cam Akers recently looks like that's going to help with that some. And I'm kind of noticing that with Dallas is like, man, I'd hate to see them get all the way down to that point. And then, yeah, you know what? He was essentially overpaid, but man, is Zeke the missing piece? And he's over there in New England.
Well, I mean, you wonder to a degree. I mean, I'm talking Derrick Henry. Is there a chance that Dallas throws New England a 6th or 7th round draft pick and brings him back? I mean, New England isn't going to need him.
Oh no, they're not going to be going anywhere. And maybe that would be a good thing, man. You get Zeke back, get him out of practicing outside in late December with Bill, because that's what Bill wants to do, even though he's not winning championships anymore. No one's going to be with it. But that would be interesting. All right, let's move into the topics, the big topics here. And the big thing in college football this week, Emil, is not Ohio State beating Penn State. It's not what's going on atop the rankings and then who's going to be in that top 4. It's not any of that. It is the apparent war, seemingly, that maybe the rest of the Big Ten has, or the NCAA now has, against Jim Harbaugh and Michigan. Perhaps maybe I'm off base with this. I've seen a video. I've seen a couple videos, and one in particular last year from the Ohio State-Michigan game, where apparently there was a local television station filming from the sidelines, as they will, and they caught a shot where Ohio State, you've seen offenses come to the line and simulate that they're going to go into a cadence. Hopefully the defense moves around, and now they look over to the side and the coach is going to signal in a play. So this is going on. CJ Stroud is now looking over to the sideline, and the video catches in the background the Michigan sidelines. And it's very apparent that their eyes are going from Stroud, who's like right here. And once he stops to look at the sidelines, they're looking over and they're doing this. And almost simultaneously, all of the staff that was in the shot, plus players in the back, start making some kind of a signal over to the defense, like, we saw their sign. Now we know what they're doing. Emil, I'm going to give you the coach/player feeling on this. Sign stealing is just something that would happen. If you want to run a hurry up offense and signal plays like that from the sideline, then, that's a peril of doing that. Defenses have had to adjust to this hurry up offense thing. And after trying to fall out or substitute, blah, 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 they said, hey, wait a minute. These guys are just signaling plays in. Let's see if we can get a beat on these signals, and we can, stop it that way. Despite all this stuff going on with Harbaugh, by the way, it seems as though the sign stealing has not been all that successful for him in the big key games, but that's beside the point. What's your feeling as a fan about the sign stealing? Do you feel about it the way that you feel about the Houston Astros?
No, because the Houston Astros had a whole get-up set up in their stadium to steal it in the game from pitchers. Okay. He's sending,
and they had like a mic attached to someone's titty or something, didn't they?
Yeah, I mean, they were banging garbage cans. He literally is sending. Here's the rule, right? Apparently, the NCAA has a rule, which I didn't know about until this whole thing happened, that you cannot in-person scout other teams. And that rule's been in place since 1994, if my memory serves me correctly when I read this.
Did they give any reasons as to why that rule got implemented?
That was I have no idea why, nor do I care. That's the dumbest rule I can't, baseball, they advance scout all the time. If the next series for my team is the Yankees, I have an advanced scout at the Yankee series before we get in to play them. Okay. That's just the normal thing in sports like baseball, and I'm sure in the NFL, advanced scouting. Why can't I send somebody to the game? I know it's the rule, but it's a dumb rule. For Christ's sake, we're paying players. We're literally paying players.
Yeah, it's probably time for us to advance here. So You know, I'm
I mean,
not
the
sure.
NFL advanced scouts, right? I mean, they can send a guy to watch. If you can go watch, if I'm playing the Cardinals next, I can send a guy to the Cardinals game to sit in the stands and watch the game. So
There might be something to it. Maybe they don't want guys filming signs. I thought. Did you hear Matt Rule's um, thoughts on the sign stealing?
no, what did he say?
I thought he had some pretty interesting comments. I'm gonna play something for us here.
There's nothing wrong with teams over there looking over trying to steal our signs. There's nothing wrong with us trying to look at their signs. Why you should have mics in the helmets, right? Like all these coaches that vote against it every year is because they don't want to teach their quarterback. You know, in the NFL, each quarterback goes out there with 3 play calls because if I see the free safety's foot like that, it might be one high. I'm going to check to this play. And but you get to college and you're watching a game on a Tuesday night, and you know they got the signal and they're just calling a play. So that's what makes college football to me. That's why they score maybe more points, but it's also why the kids are less prepared. So that's why there should be 100% should be. We could get rid of all the stupid signs on the sidelines, and we could get pictures of, you know, rock stars and all that stuff. And we could just play football the way it was meant to be. You go to a high school game, there's technology on the sideline. You go to an NFL game, there's technology on the sideline. You go to the college, there's nothing.
I thought that was interesting. And
That's an interesting take.
This is from someone who went up and came back down, which can give a little insight into how guys do gain from that. Even though maybe you didn't have a great experience up there, you weren't Jimmy Johnson or Jim Harbaugh, but you grab something and you're bringing it back down. And this is one of the, observations he's able to make is that, man, we're using technology at this level and that level. How come college is not doing that? And we're doing stuff like, signaling. Let's start getting into helmets. How about we do that? There's enough money.
Let's be honest, right? Generally, here's what I think this is. Personally, I think Harbaugh grates a lot of people the wrong way.
He does, man.
He's an odd dude. He annoys a lot of people. And there's probably no sport that tries to get even with people they don't like more than college football, okay? Whether it's a program or a particular coach or player, if they don't like you, the powers that be tend to come together and go after you. They don't like Harbaugh, okay? I think if this was anybody else, number one, probably wouldn't be that big of a story. I wouldn't be surprised if other teams are doing it. I wouldn't be.
Well, if you listen to Matt Rule's comments, kind of makes you feel like that is what's going on. Emil, it happened to me in high school. I'm pretty sure of it. We're playing in a state championship game. It's a team we should probably be beaten up on. And I don't, we weren't though. And I'm not going to say it's because of signs. They came out and they played their asses off. I will definitely give them that. But at a certain point in the game, I had a certain between 2 series had called 4 different blitzes. Lo and behold, each time that I blitzed, they threw a screen. And I'm like, there's no way in hell that these guys are on me like that. Yeah. Right? There's no way that they know. So I called over my backup linebacker because I would signal in the signs to the middle linebacker. And so the kid that was the backup linebacker needed to know him too in case he went into the game. And so I brought him off to the side and I said, hey, this series, when I signal, you stand next to me and you give some silly stuff too. Just signal something. So we did that. I didn't call any blitz that series. Next series, though, I tell him what the play is. He signals it. Now he's the live guy. It went from me being the live guy, I'm giving the live signal and him the dummy signal, to I'm giving the dummy signal and you're going to give the live signal that the linebacker is going to, and we'd already squared it away with the guys when they're on the sidelines. So started doing that. Lo and behold, the next 3 blitzes get home. There's no blitz call. Matter of fact, one of them was a straight drop back pass, and the other one was a bootleg. And you love when you get a blitz through on a bootleg. And all right, now we're killing them with the blitz. So this stuff happens. I wasn't even mad at it.
I'm surprised that you didn't think it through to actually do something even a little bit more Machiavellian. Call your guys over and say, next series, I'm going to send you the blitz signal. We're not blitzing. We're playing like it's a screen pass. So when I give you the blitz, play it like it's a screen pass. You might have had yourself a pick 6.
It might have been. And we needed it because we ended up winning 35-33. And it was, it was a lot of
but I mean, it happens all the time.
I wasn't even mad, Emil. In my mind, I was like, oh, all right. game on. You know what I mean? Kudos to you. You're trying.
I mean,
Whatever.
baseball, it's totally normal to be on second base and steal signs. Now, that's part of what the pitch comm has eliminated that in baseball, but that was part of the game within the game. Some hitters don't want to know what's coming, believe it or not. Some
I
guys,
think I would be one of these. I think I'd be one of
yeah,
those guys.
they get freaked out. But again, it's part of the game, and it would be policed within the game. In baseball, if the pitcher thought you were stealing his signs, your buddy was going to get a haircut.
Getting buzzed. Yeah, you're getting
Right.
buzzed.
I mean, so again, it's just weird to me that we're so focused, because let's be honest, you still have to stop it. I can guarantee.
And that's what Deion Sanders said. Hey, listen, you can mail your game plan to a team a week in advance or mail them your playbook. They still got to stop the plays. And like I said, seemingly Michigan having the signs has not really helped them, but it's that they have had the signs.
Well,
that
this has a nice segue, what I'm going to say, into our next subject, because I'm telling you right now, if they sent the plays to my team's defense, they wouldn't stop it.
Yeah. If we're talking about the guys that play in Los Angeles, where folks are getting really restless in Emil,
They wouldn't stop it.
I gotta admit, even with a friend like you, who was all USC all the time, and you've expressed some feelings about some things as we've gone along, even when they were winning, and now over these last two games where they're on an 0-2 streak. I didn't think Los Angeles would turn this fast on Lincoln Riley. I thought they would just be, in the early years, happy to have offense, happy to have a Heisman Trophy candidate at quarterback, which now brings more attention to the school, and we cannot deny that. There's more attention now on USC with Lincoln Riley and Caleb Williams there than almost at any time with Clay Helton.
Oh, yeah.
I did not think that they would turn this fast. I guess the defense is just that bad.
Can I tell you why, though? As a longtime USC fan, and it's not just results. I know there's probably younger fans on Twitter, which I don't read, but this is from guys my age, a little younger, a little older, that group. And you know this. USC, for all the glitz and glamour of Los Angeles, was always a hard-nosed, tough football team in their days. When USC is good, they have big physical defensive linemen and linebackers, and they produce NFL. They produce NFL Hall of Fame linemen. Okay,
yeah,
and that's what people wanted to see return to USC. They knew that he was an air raid coach, but they wanted the discipline.
Yeah, why would you champion Lincoln Riley thinking that that's what you were going to get?
Well,
it's like buying a plum and getting pissed off that it's not a peach. Like, what's going on there?
Well, right. I'm not saying that there's people delusional thinking they were going to line up in the I formation, but I think we all thought that he'd bring some discipline to the program, some physicality at least, even if it's air raid.
You didn't watch Oklahoma Sooners in Big 12 football, I see.
That's true. And the actions, I think, are what's getting people annoyed with Riley.
What in particular?
He sounds a lot like Clay Helton, okay? There's a lot of excuse making. He's coming in with, the defense is better. You're just not seeing it. Like almost, hey, you're too dumb to see it. I'm the smart coach. You, Mr. Calamino, watching that game on Saturday, even though you're seeing a team running up and down the field and getting 500 yards of offense when they've been averaging 300 a game, you don't understand what your eyes are showing you. You need to come watch some film with me, okay? Because I'll tell you why we're better, even though it doesn't. And see, that looking down is annoying to fans who actually are making very good points here. I mean, anybody who's watched football with an honest eye, I told you after the Arizona game, they're going to lose 3 or 4 games. I'm going to be wrong. They may lose more. You can see when you're watching this, the things that bad defenses do: missing tackles, blowing assignments, not rallying to the football, hitting people late for no good reason.
Yeah, I've seen those things. Obviously, I've got a more keen eye. I have noticed the inability to hold an edge. I've noticed an inability to be strong up the middle. The tackling is a clear issue. You don't have to be a football savant to just see all the missed tackles. and not seeing a rallying to the ball. When you have these two things combined defensively, missed tackles and guys not rallying to the ball, that's what 50, 60-yard plays are made of. You might have a team that's poor at tackling, but you get a lot of bodies to the football. And just by the sheer outnumbering of a ball carrier, you get guys down. Maybe not as soon as you might want, as fans might want, but you don't have the 30, 40-yard runs because a single defender couldn't get a guy down, and then the other 4 or 5 guys are just kind of, lallygagging their way over there, and the guy takes off on them. So there's a confluence of things that should not happen defensively that are consistently happening, and so I get the frustration of fans. Whereas this is plain to see, and like, what are we doing here?
Yeah, and there's a Coach Ditka quote that I use a lot in my life in business with my kids. He says, effort without talent, basically effort without talent is sad. Talent without effort is a tragedy.
It is.
So essentially, like, when you see, the only thing you can control, like, we all have our God-given abilities, but you can always control your effort, how hard you try.
Right.
And I think that as fans, we expected him at least to bring that to the program, because we lived through Helton, right? Helton, nice guy, but he was running a cruise ship there. Now they lose a tough game on Saturday. First time ever that, in the media era, that USC players were not made available to the media after the game. Like, what are you teaching these kids? Like, life's hard. Yeah, you lost a tough game. You got to answer some questions now. That's part of your job now. Since they're getting paid, it is a job. Sit there and answer some questions. You're not teaching the kids anything by saying, "Oh, well, no, that's okay. I want to shelter you from the noise."
So now, can I go back to this point that I'm probably going to make for the 4th week in a row? If you're an avid listener of the show, bear with me once again, or please allow me to drive this point home in your head. If it's your first time here, dig in as I tell you this. The kind of thing that you describe that you would like to see a guy do is something that a program builder does. It's something a Saban would do. It's something, as much as he gets criticized, that Dabo Swinney would do. Something that a Kirby Smart would do. Maybe even Urban Meyer, even though he, gets vilified for the character of some of the players that he's had. A guy that's a program builder does. The play calling, the play sheet coaches aren't program builders. They're almost like mercenaries. If I can just kind of picture this for you guys, it's like they've been hired as a head coach. They step outside of themselves, and now that's just a cardboard cutout, and they're OC now, and the only thing they're going to bring to the table is these play calls and these play designs during the week, and everything else is going to fall off. So I'm not going to pay as much attention to what's happening on the defensive side. I'm not going to be on top of what's happening special teams wise. I'm, maybe going to fall off on some of the off the field things that they're going to go missing. And then stuff like these little, and, I hate to be this critical of a Lincoln Riley, but it's not just Lincoln Riley. It's these play call coaches, that kind of stuff. Imagine how much has to go into you putting together an offensive game plan each and every week in college football at a major Power 5 conference, especially for the Pac-12 that is so great this year. That is a job for one man to do, and to that be his only job. You can't do that and do fundraising and do press conferences and make sure the kids are, going to study hall, and that they're, doing the career stuff, and that all of the stuff that we hear Nick Saban talking about that has really nothing to do with football, maximizing the value for the player. I love that line by him. That's something you do when you're a program overseer and builder.
I think Riley's a young guy. I think he's a good coach. I think he would be best served by doing a Matt Rule, seeing how he does in the NFL, and coming back. And I think he'd learn a lot. And if he never came back, that would mean he was wildly successful in the NFL, which I don't think he would be, but that's another point. I mean, he's young. And what I mean by young is because sports is a business, and when I was younger managing people, the way I look at things today and then are completely different. I think he has some friends with him that, for lack of a better word, he's protecting, and he's going to have to learn that lesson the hard way. Unfortunately, is doing that will get your ass beat.
I would love to see more of these offensive gurus really do more to mentor coaches up under their wing. You know how we talk about the coaching tree? These
Yeah,
guys get so wrapped up in their own genius that they're not really doing that. They're more involved in me calling these plays and getting notoriety for putting up 45, 50 points and getting a guy the Heisman Trophy and him throwing for 400 yards and breaking this record and breaking that record, when they have set out this system that seems to work. Bring some guys up under you and mentor them so that at some point, whether it's this job or the next one, I bring you along to the next job and, hey, guys, I think it's time. You guys, you be the offensive coordinator, you be the quarterback coach, and now let me fall back now and stand at the mountaintop and look down over my whole program and notice where there may be trouble in this corner, or there could be a potential problem in this corner, or there's something going on right here. Not me down on the floor in the middle of it, and I can't see what the hell's happening in the corner.
well, and that's what I like to do. I watch games now, and as you get older, I think you actually enjoy if you pay attention more. So, like, I'll watch a game with Alabama, and when they flash to a sideline shot of Saban, I'll see him involved talking to people if offense warrants it or defense, right? I watch every USC game. I've never really seen Lincoln Riley talking to the defense or talking about it.
He has no time. I'm calling plays. Stuff didn't happen in that last drive. We've got to fix it. When you could be on the headset with your OC and be like, hey, we need to run the ball, whatever. We need to mix our run and pass better in that next series. And then I'm not calling the plays. I can go over and talk to my left tackle and say, hey, listen, I'm a little worried about I need a little more energy out of you in that next series. Or go talk to a defensive tackle that's doing too much extra after a damn play. Listen, you're getting into it too much with these guys. You're going to eventually cause us you're going to notice that. You're going to get us a 15-yard penalty.
I feel like when I watch him at a game when they're on defense, I feel like he's watching the game with me.
He might as well have a headset on playing Madden. That's what these guys look like to me. And Emil, we will glorify the 1 out of 15 guy that does it well and say, hey, that's what everyone should be doing. No, we want to hire these 30-somethings, these early 40-year-old guys as coaches, as head coaches. And Emil, I think a lot of these guys are not ready to stop coaching.
Well,
they're not ready to stop.
Well, you know what? We're going to, since I picked this game last week, we'll get into it. I'll give a little recap quick before we recap college picks or anything.
I do want to get into something interesting though before we retire. This.
Okay, yeah, but
this is Bill Platsky.
I just want to talk about the one part of managing a game, and it'll tie into what I think you're going to go to. End of the game, USC fights back. They're down 14. They cut it to 5. Branch, the stud freshman wide receiver, phenomenal punt returner. Kid almost takes one to the house, gets pushed out at the 11. About 1:50 left in the game. USC's down 5. They need a touchdown. 1st and 10 at the 11. Utah's got 3 timeouts left. Now, if I'm Lincoln Riley, I know damn well if I give Utah the ball back with over 1.5 minutes and 3 timeouts, there's a pretty decent shot they're going to get in field goal range.
Why? Because in Lincoln's mind, the defense is getting better.
Well, maybe that's it, because the first play he calls is a pass play. Caleb Williams does what Caleb Williams can do. He just, like a joystick, walks into the end zone, run the horse around. Right. But guess what?
Got to give the ball back.
1:40 left in the game and 3 timeouts.
Hey, look, I'm here to score points, and my defense is getting better. Maybe that was the mindset. So, hey, listen.
Anyway, what do you got that's interesting?
Well, Emil, after all this, Riley came into town with a lot of hoopla, and he got a 10-year contract. So people said, oh, he'll be here into the time where we've got flying cars in Los Angeles. but there's this rumor going around, and Bill Platsky, a very well-known LA Times reporter, sports reporter, thinks that there's a chance that this guy goes to the NFL, and that's kind of what he's setting himself up for. And I thought he had some interesting comments the other day. And let me have you guys hear this.
I can see both going to the Bears in a package deal. I can see both of them going pro. So I think anything is possible.
Yeah, but why would I want Lincoln Riley if I'm the Bears?
Well, he's the quarterback whisperer. I mean, I don't think the Bears care that he doesn't let players talk to the media, that he doesn't coach defense. The Bears would care that he's got, he grew his Heisman Trophy quarterbacks, and he wins. He wins a lot of college games. And I think that's all the NFL cares about. I mean, I'm thinking, and he doesn't run a program in a big city very well, but I don't think that matters to them. I think all they care about is getting a guy who can get, if they get the number 1 draft pick, they get Caleb Williams, a guy who Caleb Williams will listen to and respond to, and that's him. I think it makes perfect sense.
Your thoughts on that, Emil?
Well, I always felt, and you and I have had this discussion over the years, there's certain programs that the only place you can go from them is the NFL. And I always thought USC was one. You're not going sideways. Like the USC coach doesn't then become the Alabama coach.
Right.
The USC coach, and you can look at the history. I'm not going to go back to Howard Jones, okay? But let's start in the 60s. John McKay, maybe the greatest coach in USC history, goes to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, takes them to the NFC title game. John Robinson, his trusted assistant, has a big run at USC, goes to the Rams, coaches your guy, Eric Dickerson. Pete Carroll wins 2 national championships at USC, wins the Super Bowl with the Seattle Seahawks, and Marshawn Lynch, he should have 2, by the way.
Sure.
So there's 3 examples I gave you right off the top of my head, very easy. I mean, that's so I always felt whether he won big here or not, the NFL was next. Now the question becomes,
so you never thought he'd do 10 years?
No, does he take the Chad Wilson route and leave with his quarterback? Because that may be what's setting up here.
Emil, he better.
Yes, and the reason I'm thinking that it sets up well for him is Williams' father, who I don't pretend to know very well. I only hear the sound bites. I don't know a lot about the guy, what his background is, but he's sounding a lot like the
LeVar
Ball, okay, saying stuff like piece of this team, piece of that team, doesn't know if the kid's going to play for this team. Well, first of all, if the Bears do have the pick, and I think they have the Panthers pick, so the way it looks is the Bears will have the pick. You got to convince a kid playing in Los Angeles to go play in Chicago, which has some pretty nasty winters, and play for a franchise that hasn't had a really, really good quarterback since Jim McMahon.
Well, where's Caleb Williams from originally? Is he not
Washington, D.C.?
Well, they do winters there.
Little bit.
Yeah, they
don't do Chicago down there. I mean, I'm not even saying weather-wise. I'm saying the whole thing around the Bears. They don't do is this something where he tries to leverage them? No, it makes it a lot smoother if you go and say, "Coach is coming with you." Because let's face it, for whatever we're saying about Riley, he does well with quarterbacks.
He does,
and they love the guy. They love the guy.
He does. I would obviously caution the Bears organization against making him your head coach, but I guess that's the only way that would happen, where he would walk away from whatever it is he's making at USC. Those numbers.
10 million. He's making 10 or 11 million a year. California rates and taxes, not that they're much better in Illinois, but he's going to get a little bit more than that if he was to take a head coaching job. And let's face it, if you have a strong GM and the relationship is right, okay, listen, you want to call plays? I'll get you the right defensive coordinator.
And I suppose,
listen, I'm not advocating that.
Oh, no, I know you aren't. You don't care about the Bears. You care about USC. I personally think, though, Lincoln Riley, whatever you do, leave with Caleb Williams, because I'm here to tell you there's nothing after that. Your defense is going to not get magically great overnight. I can't think of the defensive coordinator you would bring in there that would have that happen. Maybe there's a guy out there. And you're going to be starting over with another quarterback, and you're going to the Big Ten. You're going to the Big Ten. There's going to be some games there that's going to be very difficult.
Before we wrap up college, full disclosure here. I think he's a good guy. I think he's a great quarterback coach and pretty damn creative guy offensively. But I'm fine with Lincoln leaving. It's not about me not liking him. I can just tell you,
This
having
isn't
been
going to
around,
get where you think it's. I
watching
mean,
USC, knowing what USC wants to be about, what they can be,
it's
this
not a
isn't
match.
going to work.
Yeah, it's
Not
not
going
a
to
match.
work. Not going to work.
And it's so wild because there was just so much of a great feeling, it seemed, in Trojan land, if I could use
Absolutely.
that term, when he was coming on. I bet there's Oklahoma fans back like, ha, ha, you guys got left holding the bag
You
there.
know what's hard, and I always say this: you got to calibrate college and pro. We all get caught up in the record, and don't get me wrong, the record's important. I get it.
Mhm.
He was 55-10. I looked that up before the show at Oklahoma. But as you and I have discussed over the years, these really good college programs, they're gonna, depending on the schedule each year, they're gonna win 7 to 9 games just showing up.
Sure.
Just in other words, if in a year where your schedule is not great at Oklahoma, you got 9 wins just showing up. So there's going to be 3 games where the talent is close, or maybe even a Texas has a little bit better talent, and you got to win those two out of those 3 or all 3. So going 10-2 every year, which is what he did essentially,
Mm-hmm.
you get, when you have a Clay Helton, sure, we got excited. It's like, okay, we got a guy that actually wins. I mean, I went
You
from a
see
guy
how it
that,
matters who you're following behind?
pardon?
You see how it matters who you're following behind in terms of, how you're
Oh,
greeted?
listen, if USC never had probation and Pete Carroll left, and a guy like Lincoln Riley was the next guy without them being on
Oh, he'd
probation,
be in big soup.
he'd be in big trouble. It's just
Yeah.
that he came along after what was probably one of the worst tenures in the history of the school, other than maybe like Ted Tollner or something. I'm really going back for Ted Tollner. Other than that, I mean, I can't think of a worse period than those Helton years. So the bar was low. I mean, he didn't have to hop very high.
Yeah, and you know what? That might have played in him taking that job. What a tremendous opportunity. And I've said this before. One of the best things you could do in terms of being a college football coach is turn down certain jobs and grab a hold of finding that right next opportunity. I've always admired Urban Meyer for that. He's probably the best at that, and that's
You're a
definitely.
world citizen. I think you spent a little time in every major city, but you spent a portion of your youth in LA, okay? And this isn't a knock, this is just a reality, right? Because I live in I live closer to a place that's going to be closer, like as terms of Norman, Oklahoma, than LA. Okay, so I'm not knocking it. Norman, Oklahoma is not LA. Everybody loves the Sooners in Norman, Oklahoma.
Sure.
The hometown announcers want you to win, and they're very happy. And if Lincoln says that, well, the boys aren't going to talk to you tonight,
Yeah.
well, okay. But guess what?
Not in
Out
LA,
in
baby.
LA,
Not in
that's not
LA,
going to
not in
fly.
Miami, where
No.
there's so many things for me to do. My entertainment dollar gets stretched. I don't have to put up with this, blah, blah, yada, yada. And that's the way.
Yeah, I mean, it's not going to fly. So, again, I think this story is to be continued. We'll see what happens, but we got something important to do. Let's recap last week. Another big week in college football, and then we'll recap the picks and we'll hit them with this week's picks, because I got my trusty folder here with all the results.
Well, there you go.
Look at this. 4-2. 4-2, folks. Again, 4-2. Chad he's texting me early. He's like, I'm gonna take a collar.
It was looking that way, my friend. I'm not gonna lie to you. First of all, our guy Donnie 2 times, who's sick today, gave us the Indiana.
Yes, he did.
He did. He had
And
inside information.
that was no good. 2
from
times.
his
That was the
cousin
one
Anthony.
loser. Indiana, you didn't believe in Rutgers. Rutgers is not to be screwed with this year. Okay.
Hey, apparently
But
neither
I'll tell you what.
nor Mr. Donnie 2 times.
No, Donnie 2 times not happy. That was your loser. Then you had a nice comeback from Wisconsin. I saw that game going on. I'm thinking, how is Wisconsin losing this? They had a big fourth quarter. They came up there. I think they won by 4. You were giving 2.5. That was a winner. You got Washington State. That was a nice
the back
pick.
door, baby.
Through the back door, but when the line's 18.5, you almost figure there might be a backdoor. So you got 2 winners there. Your record in college now sits at 17-7 on the year. That's not, folks, 17-7.
That's not too bad.
Take the calculator out on your phone. That's about 70%. Okay. Me, I had a 2-1 week. I started with Ohio State. I'll be honest, their offense concerned me. But after I watched 2 quarters of Penn State's offense, when that score was 13-6, it felt like it was 33-6.
I want to give some credit to Ohio State's defense, and I'm going to be interested in seeing what that looks like against Michigan, because I'm not sure. Is Penn State that bad offensively, or is Ohio State a little more solid on the defensive side of the ball?
Ohio State's a good defense, but the problem Penn State has, they really don't have receivers to take the top off a good defense. I mean, so when you're playing some of the lower echelon Big Ten teams, you can take advantage of them. Penn State's got a good defense themselves, but I'm telling you, when that score was 13-6, I felt like it was a 20-point lead. Now, Ohio State eventually won the game by 8, but that was a really, what I felt, easy
No,
win.
I agree with you. About Penn State's offense. I'm looking at it here. Ohio State's not giving up more than 17 points in a game this year.
No, Ohio State's very, very good defensively. My loser for the week was one that really pissed me off, for lack of a better word. I mean, I take Tennessee plus 8.5, and I'm sending my friend here the Alabama obituary. I'm the guy at the funeral.
I was
saying,
right in there with you.
Yeah, I'm saying what a great dynasty it was. We remember those years, and I'm ready to bury Alabama. It's 20-7 at the half. I'm getting 8.5 points. I'm up over 3 touchdowns, and lo and behold, Nick went in and did what Nick does.
This is
And
Tennessee to me. That's Tennessee right there.
So Alabama wins that one, covers the spread. I take my only loss in college. And then I did what people on this show who aren't full-time listeners don't understand. I'm an honest handicapper. I love USC. I rooted for them all last Saturday night. But I said when that line came out at 6.5 to Utah, I said, who's making this line?
Scared me, so I stayed away.
I took Utah plus 6.5. That was easy. They were up 28-14. They were always gonna cover that game. They won it outright by 2. So I went 2-1. I sit at 14-10, which looks embarrassing, but you add those two together, that's 31-17, my friend.
That's solid.
65%.
Yeah, that's definitely solid.
So you want me to hit you with some lines? You want to go?
Well, here's what we're gonna do, because I don't have the official lines. You're the official lines for Bovada.
I'm the scorekeeper. So you start.
So you're gonna run
picks.
through. You're gonna run through your picks. I'm gonna run through mine with the lines that I have. You're gonna correct me on any lines that I have that are not official, because we're gonna use Bovada, our sponsor, Bovada Sportsbook, as the official line for us to grade these games.
Okay, I'll give you my picks, and then when you're talking, I will get you official lines. You ready?
There we go.
So last week, right, I went against the Nittany Lions. I feel like they're a bit of a bully, Penn State. I see them taking advantage of the little kids on the block. They like to go slap around Delaware, slap around UMass. And I'm telling you, the bully got punched in the mouth last week. They're not going to be happy when they get back to Happy Valley this week. They got Indiana coming in. The line is 31.5, and I'm telling you what, I'm laying 31.5. I expect Penn State to go out there and take out last week's frustration on Indiana. This game, to me, really, really feels like a 48-10, 48-7. I think they're gonna want to open the offense up, work out some kinks that they've had, and what better place to do it than against Indiana? So give me Penn State minus 31.5. Now, we come back to a program that's been a subject of a couple of our shows because they're interesting. Well, again, somebody in Vegas is asleep at the switch. I'm here to tell you, Cal's not a bad football team, okay? They played Auburn early in the year at home. They lost 14-10. Not that Auburn's world beaters, but we saw them go toe-to-toe with Georgia a couple weeks ago. Somebody thinks that it's smart to make USC a 10.5-point favorite in a game that I'm not sure they're going to give a damn about at this point. They're going to Cal. They're coming off 2 losses. They've got Oregon and Washington coming up, and UCLA. The program's got a bit of delusion around it. They obviously think they can still win this conference. I think they go to Cal, overlook them, probably win the game somehow. but not by 10.5 points. Give me Cal plus 10.5. Finally, obviously, Utah has USC's number. They've beaten them 4 times in a row. They beat Lincoln Riley 3 times in a row. But here's the problem. They expended a lot of energy Saturday night in the Coliseum. That's kind of a rivalry game for Utah, even if it's not for USC. And now they come home. They face an Oregon club that can play a little defense. And I'm here to tell you, folks, Utah's offense is not what you saw Saturday against USC. It's horrible. That's how bad USC's defense is. Their offense, I expect them to struggle mightily against Oregon. The line is only 6.5. I just see Oregon blowing out Utah, even if it's at Utah. Again, feels like something like 34-14, 34-10. Give me Oregon minus 6.5.
All right, recapping this, Penn State minus 31.5 over lowly Indiana. I don't care about those guys after what they did to my man Donnie 2 times last week. You've got Cal plus 10.5, and you're also staying in the Pac-12 with Oregon laying 6.5 against an inflated-headed Utah. All right, here's what I'm rolling with. I'm going to go into the Big 12. I've not messed with these guys for the last couple of weeks, but they've done right by me this year. Iowa State is traveling to Baylor this weekend, and they're taking on the Bears, who, Emil, I expected more out of Baylor. Everyone might remember from our college football preseason kickoff where we talked about each conference. I expected more from Baylor. I like Dave Aranda, but quite frankly, man, they have not gotten it done. He's checkerboarded the last 5 games here, a win, then a loss, a win, then a loss. As it turns out, the only wins that Baylor has in the conference right now is from the 2 newbies that are, moving up in competition, Cincinnati and UCF, and they had to go to the edge of the earth to get both of those wins. Versus Texas Tech, blown out. Versus Texas, blown out. Well, Baylor's at home. I get it. I understand it, but Iowa State's a better team, and they're only asking them to basically win the game because Iowa State is a 2.5-point favorite. I'm going to take Iowa State and roll with the Cyclones. I'm going to head on over to the Big Ten now. I have not toyed around or even thought about this team since the second game of the season. Don't think I made a pick on them, but I've been afraid of them ever since they lost that game against Colorado. But I'm going to come back into the fold now with my man Matt Rule and the Nebraska Cornhuskers, fresh off of back-to-back wins versus Illinois and Northwestern. They've won 3 of their last 4. They're kind of getting it together, and we know Matt Rule is a good college football coach. We know he's getting back into the saddle here. He's ironing some things out, especially with his quarterback play, and I like the direction that Nebraska is headed in. On the flip side, Purdue has won just 1 of their last 4 games. I think this line has them still eating off of the blowout win over Illinois. I don't know what was going on with Illinois that week. Food poisoning, whatever, runny nose, COVID. I have no idea. They got blown out. And that's not the real Purdue. The real Purdue is a team that lost probably 41-7 a couple of weeks ago against Ohio State. Couldn't get anything done against Iowa. And yes, Purdue comes into this game off of a bye, but I'm not buying it. Give me Nebraska laying a meager 2.5. Can't see Purdue winning on the road in this one. And I'm with you, Emil. I'm with you on that Pac-12 game. Hey, nice win for you guys, Utah, last week. I do appreciate your physical play in a conference like the Pac-12. I think it has served you well, but this is a really good reason for you guys to have the fat head going in there, knocking off USC and looking at your accomplishments and, watching the video over and over and totally forgetting that Oregon is a serious football team that comes in there with their fist balled up and something that they need to accomplish because they took that loss at Washington. They are coming in with something to prove, Emil. And what's my saying about the game of football? It rewards the people that have something to prove, and there's going to be 95 of those guys. Well, I don't know if they travel 95, a good 60 or so.
Yeah, there'll be enough.
Yeah, and the gold and green, looking for something to prove against a Utah team that probably has a crooked crown on their head. I think Oregon goes in here and rolls them. I was a little surprised at the line, but then also I felt emboldened by the line. It's like, yeah, I think you're going to get some Utah money on this, but the right side on this is Oregon at 6.5, which is where you have them. Emil, hold on a minute. I think we have a guest on the show. Let me get this guy in here real quick. Hold on one moment.
Oh, boy. Another guest. We keep getting guests every week.
Hey, man, you guys got a popular show going on. It's SEC Scooter here, baby. Listen.
Scooter!
Scooter's been gone for a little while. Listen, your boy here, this little co-host that you're doing this show with, okay, he's got some kitty litter going through his veins. He got all scared because he wanted to pick Georgia laying 100 points against South Carolina. That didn't work out for him. And oh no, he can't do SEC games anymore. So I can't. Me, SEC Scooter can't come on the show. Well, you're crazy, my friend. I invited myself on the show, and I know that you guys do 3 picks, and then he does 3 picks, you whatever it is you guys got going on, your little 3 packs. I said, I'll tell you what, friend, not because you're scared. You ain't gonna run SEC Scooter off. SEC Scooter's gonna show up, and we're gonna have the SEC Scooter pick of the week. Well, I kind of sold him on it. You know, I bent his arm in a way
Sure, why not?
he shouldn't bend. So I'm gonna come in here and I'm gonna give you this pick, and you guys are gonna like it. Whether you like it or not, you're gonna like it. Hey, you were talking about Tennessee and your little disappointment. All right. Try being from Knoxville, friend. That whole life just been a disappointment. I ain't just talking about Tennessee football either. It's just a whole lot of stuff to be disappointed about when you come from Knoxville. Them guys, off the heels of getting bounced around by them elephants over there in Tuscaloosa, is heading on over to Kentucky now. They think they're going to go do something over there with them boys in Lexington. How about this, Emil? The odds makers are making Tennessee, land of the chokers, favorites over Kentucky. Can you believe that?
How many points, Scooter?
I think it's 3.5, but hey, you're supposed to be the guy here that's got all the numbers. I don't do numbers, man. I don't do that. That's got to be you, my friend. You're the accountant. I think it's 3.5. Whatever the hell it is, if it's got Tennessee,
it's 3.5, Scooter.
If it's got Tennessee being a favorite, you can go and give me them guys in blue over there in Lexington. Kentucky's hard nosed. You know what I'm saying? Their women got buzz cuts and they all bench 225, the women over there in Lexington. So what do you think the boys are doing? I've got Kentucky as a 3.5 point favorite on their turf over there at home against the chokers. You got to give me Kentucky.
Scooter, let me ask you a question. Do you drink bourbon? Because I love bourbon.
Well, first of all, you're better off asking me what I don't drink, and that's going to be nothing, friend. It's whiskey, it's bourbon, it's anything down the throat on a Saturday night, especially when Tennessee chokes. I'm liable to drink moonshine, like way back from in the day. So listen, I love Tennessee football, but not this weekend, friend. I'm laying my money down on them boys, the Wildcats.
Hey,
Kentucky. Well, that's the SEC Scooter pick of the week, baby.
Scooter, you know what we have to do here? I have to recap this pick. You ready?
Well, I'll tell you what, you can recap it for the friends at home. I've got my trailer outside. I got to get going. I'm going to go ahead and get your host back in here. SEC Scooter out, babe.
So you guys heard that, right? We got 3 picks from Chad. Chad has Iowa State -2.5. He has Nebraska -2.5. He has Oregon with me -6.5. And we got a bonus pick from SEC Scooter. He's giving you Kentucky +3.5 over Tennessee. Now we got to roll. See how we're going to go into this? We're
got a little tobacco on my shirt here.
Got a little tobacco. We're going to go right to our NFL recap.
Let's hit it.
Now, the NFL was not as kind to me last week as it was Chad. Okay, Chad, you went 2-1. You should have probably went 3-0. By damn, the Atlanta Falcons tried a million ways to hand that game to the Buccaneers.
Oh, my God. It was...
I mean, they were fumbling on the 1 yard line, doing all kinds of stuff that made it feel like you were going to get an undeserved win.
I got Baker Mayfield, though.
I know. It didn't happen. That was your loser. Bucks -2.5. You got 2 wins. You had the Ravens -3. They beat the Lions by like 100. That you could kind of feel that coming. The Lions being a little bit getting big-headed going on.
You could feel that 28-0 coming like that? Good league.
No, I didn't feel that bad. And then good pick. You really read that Eagles game, right? Just felt like the Dolphins were never really in that game. The Eagles kind of dominated it. So you're 2-1 again in college. You're 14-7. So you're having yourself NFL. Excuse me. 17-7 in college for Chad. 14-7 in the NFL. 31-14. That's some picking. I had my first losing week in a while. I went 1-2. I had the Ravens with you. Then I had the Rams -3. That game was back and forth tight. The Steelers pulled it out late by 7.
Yeah, I thought you were going to win that one.
And then I made a mistake. I don't know what's going on with the Chargers, but they're on my list for a while. I can't get a feel for that team. They were in the game. It was a 7-point ball game late. The Chiefs pulled away and won by 14. I was getting 5.5. So I went 1-2. I'm 12-9 on the season. And you know what? Overall, 26-19, which in most shows I'd be the leader, but not against you this year.
No, you're actually having a solid year. I'm just happen to be having a good year right now, and hopefully that continues. So I'm going first in the NFL. Is that
Yes,
correct?
you go first. Lay it out there.
All right, my friend, let's get this thing going. The Colts, they got jobbed last week with that late call in the end zone, and you know how I feel about pass interference and all that BS. Yeah, Colts got jobbed on that one. There's a lot of disappointment, but I think they suck it up this week. Yeah, I know Anthony Richardson's out, but listen, he was playing well, but he was a rookie quarterback. Truth of the matter is, Gardner Minshew is a guy that can win games for you in this league, and especially when you're inviting the New Orleans Saints into town. I don't know what to make of the Saints. They're all over the place. I'm not sure if Derek Carr is it. I just watch the Saints because I just want shots, any kind of shots of Jameis Winston on the sidelines. It's so entertaining, and that's my major reason for watching the New Orleans Saints. Do I think they can go on the road and actually win a game? I don't have that confidence. I do like the way the Colts are playing. They've got a good solid ground game with Jonathan Taylor and Zach Moss. They get what they need out of Gardner Minshew. Last week aside, they play fairly decent defense. I think on the heels of that loss to the Browns, I think they can lather themselves up enough. And if they're motivated, you can beat a New Orleans Saints teams coming to town who, is off of a loss as well. But I'm going to go with the home team here. I think they're only a 1-point favorite. You can correct me on that at the end. And I only need the Colts to win this game. And I just think the Colts are the better team in this particular matchup in this particular place. Speaking of the Browns, who got away with one, they're heading to Seattle, seeing if they can get away with some more. I like this Browns football team. I've said that from the beginning. They play good defense. They did not play it very well last week. And so I think they come into this thing feeling like they lost the football game that they actually won, and they're getting points. And so I think they have enough motivation, even off of a win, to come out and play solid football right here. I like the Cleveland Browns as 3.5-point underdogs to a Seattle Seahawks team that beat a downtrodden Arizona team in a divisional game. They might not be at their peak in terms of mental motivation this week. And then finally, we all saw it. Emil, I've heard all the stuff about Brock Purdy. And yes, he's in a concussion protocol. There's a chance he won't play. Emil, if he doesn't play, I like to play even more. If he does play, I still like this play. There's so many good things around the San Francisco 49ers football team that it's not going to matter really which one of those guys are playing at quarterback. I cannot see this San Francisco 49ers football team losing 3 games in a row with that third game being at home against the Cincinnati Bengals, who, yeah, they're coming around. I just don't think the Bengals are quite where they need to be yet. I think we're going to see a highly motivated San Francisco football team, especially the defense that got taken to town by Kirk Cousins, God forbid. I think a highly motivated defense and some curveballs being thrown in there offensively by Kyle Shanahan, whether he's got Darnold in there or he's got Purdy in there. I think that's going to be enough for them to win. And I think we've got to lay 3.5 in this one. You could fix that one for me.
I'll recap it here. I checked our sponsor. You ready?
Yes.
This is official Bovada. We're going with Colts -1.5 for
Freaking
Chad.
the hook.
The Browns +3.5, and the 49ers -3.5. So
all right.
That's the 3. I'll make it quick, folks, because I got 3 winners for you. Just run to the window with these. You're not going to like them. You have to swallow hard on a couple, but
Pause.
First one. I'm going, there's a tendency to look at this Eagles Commanders game, Washington, for those of you who don't want to go Commanders, say, hey, they took the Eagles to overtime last game. The Eagles are going to come in here pissed off. Here's where I think this is a classic crap sandwich game. Eagles were home with the Dolphins on Sunday Night Football. They're home next week with the hated Cowboys, for anybody who's been to Philly on Sunday Night Football. And in between, they got to play this team that they can kind of half-ass their way around and win. I'm going to take the Commanders off a loss last week in the division against the Giants, getting 6.5 at home. They're a 3-4 football team, which means they're kind of average. They're not horrible. And I just don't see the Eagles being incredibly focused or motivated for this game. It's in between, like I said, 2 big games for them. This is the classic situation in the NFL where the Eagles will probably figure out a way to win, but not by a touchdown. Give me the Commanders +6.5. Next one, got the Jags. Listen, Mike Tomlin, anybody who wants to fire him, you're crazy. How he has that team at 4-2, the guy can coach, because I'm telling you, the Steelers are one of the worst 4-2 teams I've seen. Yeah, their defense is salty, but offensively, wow. And I think the Jags are kind of finding themselves now. They won that game in London against the Bills. They're starting to get on a roll. They're a good football team. They're 5-2. They go to Pittsburgh. They only have to win by 2.5 points. I look at this game and I say, can I picture the Steelers at 5-2 on Monday morning? No, I can't. So I'm going to take the Jags minus 2.5. And then finally, I have another game where it's a situational play for me. The Cardinals, for the fact that they're 1-6, if you look at their point differential, they're really not. They're like negative 50 points, which means they don't get killed. They played the Niners tough, fell apart at the end. They lost 35-16, but that game was 21-16. They upset my team in Arizona. I feel the Ravens are going there this week off that win against the Lions, 38-6. Lamar threw for 350 yards. They're going to feel really good about themselves. Probably wasn't the greatest week of practice because they feel good about themselves and they're playing a 1-6 football team. They're going west. The line's 8.5. That's a fat line in the NFL. I think the Cardinals hang around again in this game. And you know what? If the Ravens go out there and piss around too much and they're sloppy like Dallas was, you may even see an upset here. So give me the Cardinals plus 8.5.
All right, recapping Abel in the NFL, he likes the Commanders plus 6.5 against the fat-headed Eagles coming in off of the standalone game win over the Dolphins. He likes the Jags getting their act together and can't see the Steelers at 5-2 with Matt Canada as their offensive coordinator and things the way they're going on offense for the Steelers. And then this is Lord of the Arizona Cardinals. This might be your third or fourth time picking a Arizona Cardinals game. I guess we've got to trust him on it because I think he got a winning record in those. He likes the Cardinals plus 8.5 against the fighting Lamar Jacksons. All right, listen, folks, I hate to take off and run on you, but we've been at it for a little minute here. And so, Emil, I think we're set up for a pretty good weekend here.
Yeah, and if you do me a favor, when you see Scooter and you take him back to the airport, tell him I want him to pick me up a bottle of Widow Jane.
Well, we'll have to get on the CB radio to catch up with Scooter because
Okay.
he left in his 18-wheeler. We'll have to catch up with him. We might never see him again if that pick on Kentucky doesn't come through. I don't know. To be continued there. But all right, guys, we're out of here. We've got you filled in on what's the latest and the hottest in both NFL and college football. We broke down last week's picks, and boy, we are getting it done. Emil, what's our overall record between you and I, college and NFL?
Well, I mean, I can do this quick in my head. You're 31-14, right? And I'm 26-19. That adds up to 57-33. That means you got a bookie somewhere that's very sad.
Really quick, I did a little quick math. We're 63% overall. That's in 90 picks. That's pretty damn good, folks. So we're making you happy there. And we put you down with the picks that we like for this week. So I hope you guys enjoyed that. Again, on your way out, if you haven't done it already, go ahead and hit the subscribe button on YouTube if that's how you're watching us. Or if you're on Spotify, Anchor, Apple, whatever you use for your podcast, go ahead and hit us up with a subscribe there. Hope you guys enjoyed it here. We're going to be back again next week, baby. Don't miss out on another show. For Emil Calamino, I'm Chad Wilson. Thanks for watching or listening, whatever you were doing, to the Two Chumps Football Podcast. See you guys next week.